Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm going to talk about the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, season 4 specifically, which was released on Netflix on December 31st, 2020. This video is going to cover episode 4, titled Chapter 33, Deus Machina, and episode 6, titled Chapter 34, The Returned. Otherwise, I covered 1, 2 in one video and 3 and 4 in another. Cards for those should be popping up, so if you want to check those out first. But otherwise, huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, please go do so first, or specifically if you haven't seen 4 or 5, or 5 and 6, sorry, then please go do that first, and then come back and see what I have to say about those 2 episodes specifically. Otherwise, my other video reminders are up on screen. Take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Also, I am recording at 1:40 a.m. New Year's Day, so Happy New Year's for you guys, even though this will automatically be posted past New Year's Day, so it's just when I'm recording. So let's get started. We'll talk about episode 4 first, and then, or episode 5, sorry, and then we'll talk about episode 6. First off, since episode 5 is called Deus Machina, I thought a little bit of a definition refresher, because it actually refers to the term itself replies to a plot device whereby a seemingly unsolvable problem in a story is suddenly and abruptly resolved by an unexpected and unlikely occurrence. I honestly don't. Actually, no. We'll see what I say after I talk about what we do today. So, in the timeline for episode 405, I'm assuming it's been a few days since Nick's confession to Sabrina, because he does allude to the fact that the reason why he transferred to her school is because she's been avoiding him for some time, but I don't recall if he's stated specifically how long it's been that she's been avoiding him, so that's a little something there. The episode reminder, though, is the fact that the 5th Eldritch Terror is known as the Cosmic, really on a more cosmic scale. Plus, we also actually see the Celestial Realm for the first time, I believe, and we do meet an angel, one of Lucifer's brethren, by the name of Metatron, which is actually the opening scene. So the opening scene is big words, Celestial Realm, and this is when we are made aware that the Celestial Realm is aware of the Eldritch Terrors coming, and they are stepping back to give each of the realms a chance to fight for themselves against the Terrors before, and if things all go wrong, then they are going to negate Sabrina, or pretty much kill her off. This, we find out later on, was spoken by the angel Metatron, who is the very representation of order and trying to restore that balance. So the storylines that I picked up during the episode were 1, merging of the mortal and infernal realms; 2, the Eldritch Terrors, which is the cosmic one; 3, Hobgoblin troubles; and 4, Lilith confronting Lucifer. So with the first storyline, the merging of the immortal and infernal realms. So initially you think that this is one of the Eldritch Terrors, but essentially it is when aspects of hell and of earth are kind of showing up in each other's realms. So the spikes and monuments from hell popping up in Greendale, and then like stuff from Greendale popping down into hell. This leads to the secret of the 2 Sabrinas being outed to the Spellman family, and both teams on Sabrina's sides are trying to come together to figure out a way to stop the mortal realm and the infernal realm from colliding with each other. So they try to treat it as if magnets. So since they are opposites attracting, they're going to try to make it so that the 2 realms would repel each other like magnets. But in doing so, they kind of merge them a little bit more into conjoined planets, almost from the representation they had in the observatory room. And doing so resulted in the celestial realm starting to be drawn into that conjoined pole that they have. So this leads to the appearance of Metatron, with the solution that one Sabrina will have to die, or both Sabrinas have to merge to become one, so that there is only one entity in the form of Sabrina. Everyone acts as if this is the only solution. And here I'm saying, when it first was even an issue with the time paradox, I'm like, hello, you would have to deal with this initially. I didn't think it would actually cause... No, wait. Didn't I say that it would bring down the whole cosmos if there were still 2... I don't know. Anyways, I was all for either one of them. They both can't survive. Either merge or one of them has to die. So Metatron gives both Sabrinas 6 hours to live out their final moments. So Morningstar asks if she can spend those 6 hours with the Fright Club friends, so hanging out with Harvey, Roz, and Theo, and she ends up performing with them. She spends with them. And then Spellman spends her 6 hours with Nick, losing her virginity, making the confessions and stuff like that. So obviously they've hashed things out because of it. Also, take note that Morningstar actually revealed that she had spent months in hell. So between 308 and 401, it's been at least months. Don't know how many months, but months. But definitely not enough for it to be like years. Or maybe hell's time moves differently. I don't recall, because not counting the ninth circle, that definitely time moves differently there. But Pandemonium, I don't recall if that time works differently than Earth. Anyways, so there's that. So two Sabrinas are about to merge, but mid-merge is when they're stopped by Ambrose realizing that there's 3 more planets, or 3 more realms coming to kind of replace or collide with the 3 current realms in jeopardy. So, because Metatron did not tell this to any of them, both sides of the Spellman duo come together to kill Metatron and stopping the merge completely. So because of this, now that they have 2 parallel realms at risk of colliding with each other, they decide that their solution is to send one of the Sabrinas to the parallel Earth as an offering. Because if they can't have 2 of them on one Earth, then hopefully, since it's the 2 Sabrinas that are kind of the beacon for all the Eldritch Terrors, which they don't know why, or they think it's because it's their 2 existence is the reason why they're coming, they think that would settle it. And how they decide which Sabrina goes, rock, paper, scissors. And Morningstar loses, so she has to go to this alternate world. She gives goodbye kisses to Caliban, and then she enters through the wormhole and enters in an Earth where her Aunt Helda and Aunt Zelda are from the 90s sitcom of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And then it just cuts it right there. So that's something, which we'll talk about a lot later. The second storyline deals with the Eldritch Terror. So this is when Ambrose first fails to interrogate Blackwood, then Prudence fails to get the answers psychically. So that leads to Prudence recruiting Roz to help get Blackwood's corpse at the Pilgrims of the Night Church, and they end up finding the twins there worshipping his rotting body, which is gross. And then Prudence uses Blackwood's body to get answers by torturing it, so because the head could still feel the pains. So it's not as big for the thing about this episode is not like the Eldritch Terror isn't actually a physical form that they're like fighting against like they've done in the previous episodes, but it's more of like this big cataclysmic thing. Anyways, hope that makes sense. Third one, Hobgoblin troubles with Theo and Robin. We meet one of Robin's Hobgoblin friends named Moth, who calls him Puck. But we find out that all the other Hobgoblins are sensing bad things coming, so they're all going to plan to flee to the fairy realm or the Fae realm, and for good. And Moth wants Robin to come with them. Robin wants Theo to go with him, but Theo doesn't want to run and can't leave Greendale, so Robin decides to stay with him. However, Moth confronts Theo and reveals that the longer that Robin stays away from the Fae realm, the weaker he gets until he won't be a Hobgoblin anymore, pretty much ripping away anything that made him special. Because of this, Theo tells Robin to leave, essentially breaking them up, which was very depressing when that happened. But Robin says that he will still come back if Theo ever calls him, kind of a thing. So, that's that. Fourth storyline, though, deals with Lilith confronting Lucifer. So, Hilda mentions that Lilith hasn't left her rooms for a few days since the baby was born. And Lilith plans to stay in isolation for the next 16 years until baby Adam can come into his powers and challenge Lucifer to claim the throne. Hilda doesn't seem to be pleased with that, but she still keeps a smile on her face. Lilith later changes her mind and asks to speak with Lucifer. he finds out about the baby being born. She tries to out Caliban for trying to kill her. Lucifer doesn't care for Lilith. He just wants his son back. But Lilith refuses, but Adam only gives her 6 hours left to spend time with Adam before he takes him back to the infernal realm. So, because of this, Lilith ends up killing her son and was ready to present his remains as a meal to Lucifer, kind of paralleling what Lucifer had done to the first Adam, Lilith's original lover. And also with Mary Wardwell's Adam, I believe, too. He did that as well. And instead of killing her like Lilith had hoped, instead he curses her with immortal humanity. So he strips her away of her status as a witch, and he pretty much turns her human and made it so that she experiences all the pains and sufferings, but she can never die. So she's kind of stuck to deal with her grief for what she had done. And that's that. It was kind of very similar to how the Supernatural the episode 15-19, what they did with the season 15 Big Bad. Instead of killing them in the final end, they pretty much left him to be human, which is very different to what he wanted. So it's very similar to what Lilith did to Lucifer, or what Lucifer did to Lilith here, now that I think about it. Did any other show do that? Pretty sure another show tried to do that. Anyways, there's that. Last scene of the episode shows Sabrina and Nick seeing a shooting star, and Sabrina wishing for all of them and her Morningstar counterpart to be safe from what's to come. A little anticlimactic there, but yeah. Tidbits, though. Interesting tidbits. So we find out that Sabrina and Roz are actually the new co-presidents at Baxter High. In the previous episode, they were campaigning to be the next co-presidency. This episode, we actually see them taking on that role. We also see Nick having transferred to Baxter High. He has a Letterman's jacket on. He transferred to spend more time with her because he felt the reason he wasn't fully committed to Sabrina was because he never got to be, he didn't get to experience, it felt like he was only half in her life because she split her time between Baxter and the Academy, and he felt like he had to do the same thing to truly be part of her full world, if that makes sense. So there's that. And then also, just before the whole collision of the realms thing, Queen Sabrina and Lucifer had just returned from their tour of the 9 circles, and Sabrina had wanted to implement a one soul in, one soul out rule because hell just seemed to be overcrowding. And it looks like Caliban is still trying to campaign for Earth to be the 10th circle, but Sabrina's just not budging on that. And then we also find out that Ambrose is 134 years old. I'm pretty sure we've mentioned that age before, but it just still surprises me that he's so old, yet looks so young. So that's something for that. Ship status, the only major ship that really was focused in this episode, aside from like Robin and Theo, since they did have their own storyline to deal with, was Nick and Sabrina. Let me just add that. Nick and Sabrina. So at first we found out that she was avoiding him, and then he wanted to be a part of both their worlds. She claims he hurt her and she needs time before she even thinks about getting back together with him, and he claims that he's willing to wait. And then that's all before they find out that she may only have 6 hours left before being changed by the merge. So there's that. Most shocking moment of the episode, 1, everyone banded together to kill Metatron. I feel that was kind of premature since we just met them. Second thing, the shocking thing was that there was no consequence to them stopping the merge partway through it. It just seemed like both Sabrinas weren't affected, except for that one moment where they were talking at the exact same time. Otherwise, I didn't really see any consequence for them stopping partway, which I feel like there should have been. So there's that. Top favorite moments, though. First, Ambrose calling Sabrina out on her time paradox and how it's the epicenter of this cataclysmic merger of the realms. I love how he just like fully went at her because, as he's been saying, you can't just create a time paradox and expect everything to be hunky-dory. And I did like the fact that she was owning up to like, yeah, this was my mistake. I'm going to take full responsibility for it. So I did like that as well. Another favorite was that I really liked that we got to see Morningstar singing with Fright Club. It was also kind of interesting that she wanted to spend her 6 hours with the group of friends, even though it seemed like she wasn't really missing them. It was very interesting to me that Queen Sabrina, in her final 6 hours, she chose to spend it with Harvey, Theo, and Roz, and not spend it with Hilda, Zelda, or Ambrose, who she hasn't been with for the last few months, or that she didn't spend her time with Caliban, which I thought was pretty interesting, that she decided that she wanted to sing with them. But it was a nice moment for them to sing, but I thought that was very interesting that that was the choice of how she would spend her 6 hours. Another favorite I did have was just seeing the small moments that we got to see between Morningstar and Caliban, with kind of his goodbye before the merger, him always standing by her side, and whenever they were in the bigger groups, and kind of like sticking by her. I thought that was very interesting, the mannerisms between the two of them. So that's something, that his protectiveness as well, or I don't know if it's territorialness at times, but like either way, it's just like he's not afraid to stand his ground. I don't know. Plus, another very quick favorite was just seeing the Hilda and Zelda from the Sabrina the Teenage Witch comedy show, the sitcom show from the 90s. Just seeing that brief cameo was just like, that was just fun. So that's something there, especially since I was expecting it to, in the previous episode, when the altered realities thing was the focus. So that's something there. Now, moving on to my peeves. I will say I do have more peeves than favorites for this episode. First peeve, the merger didn't happen. I'm still stuck with two Sabrinas. This is the one episode that fully focused on the time paradox issue. The fact that even Metatron even said that the issue was the fact that there is, since they both share the same number of cells, the universe is holding an extra set of cells that are not supposed to be in existence. So the only way to rectify that is that if you eliminate one set of cells, aka killing one Sabrina, or you merge the two Sabrinas together so that there's only one set of cells in the universe of Sabrina, which makes sense. They explained it, and then they stopped midway. And I'm like, really? So that's like, also, I'll say it now though, because it is tied with it. I don't get how sending Sabrina Morningstar to the parallel Earth is gonna fix this issue. Because now, hello, that only works if you know for a fact that there is no Sabrina Spellman or Sabrina Morningstar, Sabrina anybody on that parallel Earth. Because for all you know, you just transferred from one Earth with two sets of Sabrinas. You transferred one Sabrina to another Earth, where now there could be two sets over there again. You're just displacing the problem. So it made no sense to me why they thought sending the doppelganger or the double over to another parallel Earth. Like it makes no sense. It's still the issue, the fact that there's two Sabrinas in existence in a point in time when there's not supposed to be two of them. That's the peeve. Because to me, it's like, it's as simple as like, plus also the reason I don't like the solution of just sending, the reason why I wanted the merger, because from the merger, I wanted to see the struggle, because then if the two Sabrinas merged, here's the thing I wanted to see. The two Sabrinas merged, then it's just one body, and either A, there's going to be both of Sabrina's consciousness, and we might get to see the double play whenever we're in her head, or she has two sets of memories, and she's going to have the internal struggle of figuring out, okay, which memories or which version of Sabrina is she, or she's going to have to find a balance of which version she is again, because then it would be so cool to see she has the one set of memories that has the feelings for Nick, and then she has the one side of feelings that have the memories with Caliban. And now this new Sabrina is going to have to figure out, okay, which one is she which one of them does she actually side with the most? I would have loved to have seen that play out instead of just sending the second Sabrina off into another Earth. Like, that doesn't fix anything. That just displaces it, and that irritates me so much right now. Can't keep ranting about it. So another peeve I had was the fact that Theo broke up with Robin. I mean, like, I understand why, because he didn't want Robin to lose anything that made him special. But it's like, why'd you have to be so hateful to get him to leave? Just, it was sad. That was the peeve there. And then my other peeve is Nick and Sabrina. The fact that they're even together. I mean, the whole reason why I don't like it is because then what was the whole point of Sabrina doing that candle cut feeling spell in 306? She literally wrote Nick's name in a candle, wrote her name on another candle. They were connected by the wick. She burnt the wick, and that was supposed to mean that all her romantic feelings for Nick were gone. And yet, the way that Sabrina was talking to Nick in this episode, it made it seem like she never did that candle spell to begin with. Because she said, like, you still hurt me. I don't know if I can ever get back together with her. She was still talking as if she had those feelings. And I'm like, if you did the spell and you apparently don't have those feelings for him, you would not be talking or reacting to him in this way. You'd be indifferent to him. So I'm like, what was the whole point? Did that spell never really work? And then I'm thinking, well, like, now you're just forgetting what you did in the previous season. Because now it just seems like, because it's kind of like, okay, the reason why, like, I'm not vibing with this like I did when the Vampire Diaries did it in season 6, when they had Elena erase her feelings for Damon away, and then he returned and she didn't know who he was, or she had very antagonistic feelings for him, and he had to work to get her to give him a chance again, and then she got her memories back. The reason why these two things are different for me, even though it's kind of the same premise, is the fact that Elena she went through her version of getting rid of her feelings for Damon, similar to what the candle spell was meant to do for Sabrina and Nick. So instead of feeling like having no feelings for Damon, Elena had a very distinct view of Damon, which contradicted what he had views of their relationship. So he had to work twice as hard, and she had to build back those feelings. I didn't get that build back when it came to Sabrina. It literally felt like she never did the candle spell, and it's just like, oh, it was a bad breakup. We needed some time away. And then, like, okay, I'm coming back to kind of make things right. And then she's acting as if, like, oh, you hurt me. But then that candle spell should have made it seem like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's like, we're good. There's nothing to do. Like, there should be an indifference, and there's not. And that's what pisses me off. Because that candle thing was meant to be some huge turning point and meant to be a huge roadblock when they did it in episode 306. And now it just seems like it was inconsequential. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, no. I'm getting fed up over it right now, which I shouldn't, but I do. So there's that. Now, random questions. Last one first. Why would the Celestial Realm have the same simple planetary diagrams that the Mortal Realm has? I would think as a Celestial Realm, you'd have more flair and finesse in how you have your own representation of the universe, instead of what looks like some planetary models that humans have built. Like, it's impressive on the Mortal Realm, but when I saw the exact same thing in the Celestial Realm, I'm like, wait. That's just very remedial now. When you have these higher powers and being and stuff, right? It's just like, no. Second question. Will Lucifer and Caliban still fight for Sabrina Spellman to replace the void that Sabrina Morningstar has left behind? Because if you remember, the whole reason in season 3 was that Lucifer wanted Sabrina to take the throne and Caliban wanted the throne. But now that their queen is off on a different planet, are they going to force Sabrina Spellman to take her role because they still need their queen by their side, or like what? That was another thing too. If the Sabrinas merged, then she would have to deal with that again. Does she still provide her duties as queen, or does she sidestep them? Like, is she dealing with the fact that she's technically married to Caliban in half of her memories, and the other half is pining after Nick? And it's just like, that would have been so much. I wonder if they didn't do that just because they knew that they had short episode counts. I would have preferred that. Someone write that fan fiction for me, please. Where instead they actually went to the merger and she's now stuck with two sets of memories and she has to figure out which one she accepts and make up this new version of Sabrina. So there's that. But let's move on to episode 6 before I take up all the time. So episode 6, titled The Return, deals, I think it's possibly for the timeline, maybe the next day, since Sabrina kind of still mourns for the fact that her counterpart went to another Earth. But also within the episode, it's been mentioned that Agatha has been crazy for months, and she became crazy in episode 304. So again, don't know how many months, but at least we got a value of some sort. Now, the episode reminder I'll say is that this one deals with the 6 Eldritch Terrors, known as the Return. So this is when the resurrected will come back, and they are not as they seem. They don't remember everything, but they definitely need to feel welcome, and you don't remind them that they're dead. And it seems like they try to kill you after they do. So that's something. The opening scene, though, has Sabrina Spellman trying to contact Sabrina Morningstar through the mirror. She accidentally wakes up Nick when she pretty much feels this horrifying dread of like not being able to contact her other half. And he's telling her to have faith that everything's okay over there. Also, we have them checking in with Ambrose about whether or not sending Morningstar over to the other Earth slowed down or stopped the collisions that the cosmic was happening. But Ambrose only says that it seems so slowed down, but since it's since it's a huge scale, it's going to take a lot longer for it to show its effects. So there's that. Storylines, though, for the episode picked up on 3. First one dealing with the Eldritch Terror. Second dealing with Lilith's grief. Third one being Battle of the Bands. They're all interconnected with each other, but you distinctly have certain elements that are associated with one more than the others. So, Eldritch Terror. The cosmic is still being dealt with. It's very slow progress, like I mentioned. But while this is all happening, the 6th one comes in, first coming in the form of Zelda's old familiar Vinegar Tom as a puppy. He's the first of the Return coming back. Then we also find out, we also have Edward Spellman coming back. We also have Lilith hearing baby Adam's cries repeatedly. We have Dorcas coming back for Agatha. And then we have Hilda meeting her dead mother-in-law, who Dr. C says his mom has been dead for 10 years. So those are the returns that we do see. This is kind of similar to Supernatural episode 402, I believe. The Rising of the Witnesses, I believe, was the seal name for it, where past victims came back to haunt the hunters that wronged them. Kind of similar to this, except it's in the form of family members. We did get down the Vampire Diaries as well, too. I believe in season 3. Ghost World, I believe it was called, episode 7. We did get that. I think we got down the originals as well, too, in season 1 or 2, I believe. Yeah, it's definitely not the first time we've seen the dead coming back to haunt the living and kind of seek revenge. But anyways, so while all that's happening, we have Mumble Marie facing off against the leader of the Returns, that is Lazarus, or known as the Resurrected Man. She has to do this old game of Senate, which kind of plays for the souls to be returned or to stay on hell and continue the suffering among the living. Lazarus ends up winning, but Lilith kills him, which should have been impossible because he's immortal, but her storyline leads her to a weapon that can kill an immortal. So with that, let's get into Lilith's grief, because the rest of it I already did. Okay, Lilith's grief. We have her calling upon Caliban to help her die, which he wants to help kill her, but he can't undo Lucifer's curse on her. So instead, she sends him for a specific weapon in hell that could kill an immortal. He gets it for her, hands it over, and just as she's about to kill herself, she finds out about Lazarus, the resurrected man. So she goes to plead for the return of her baby Adam when it's refused because there's no body for the Lazarus to use to bring Adam back. Lilith instead uses the weapon to kill Lazarus, therefore having the Eldritch Terror stopped. And yeah, so there's that. But afterwards, Lilith still hears the cries of baby Adam. Going for mama now, though, instead of just regular cries. So that's something a little weird. And then third storyline, Battle of the Bands. So instead, we have Harvey finding a glowing guitar and plays it. And that releases the band Satanic Panic from Hell. They end up being part of the returned group. So apparently they had history with Harvey's dad. They were the band that made an offer with Lucifer. Harvey's dad refused to take part in it. The band did by killing their class's prom queen. And Harvey kind of ratted on them, which led to the band's death by being burned alive. So as revenge, Satanic Panic takes Harvey's dad as hostage to get the Fright Club to play against them in Battle of the Bands like they were originally supposed to do when they were alive. Robin gets called back in to play with the band. Lucifer hosts the Battle of the Bands. So then it's Satanic Panic playing, then Fright Club plays, and then Sabrina, Nick, Prudence, and Ambrose gatecrash and play as the band Dark Mothers. And while they're doing all that, the prom queen that got killed by Satanic Panic gets her revenge on the band and kind of making Sabrina's band win. Don't know how, but that's kind of how it ends up there. And then all the return got sent back to where they came from. The last scene of the episode shows the Spellman family seeing Mambo Marie take her true form and returned back to the grave. Although the dog Vinegar Tom seems to be staying, because he was still in the arms of Zelda when everybody else disappeared. And I'll get back to that in a moment. Tidbits, though, we find out that Hilda still didn't know about baby Adam's death in the very beginning, but I think after what happened with the return, it's going to be common knowledge now afterwards. Also, we find in this episode both Edward Spellman and Lucifer deny acknowledging Sabrina as their daughter. Edward Spellman, who believes his daughter to only be 2 months old, claims that Sabrina was not his daughter, but the daughter of Lucifer, so therefore no connection to him. And then for Lucifer, he calls Sabrina Spellman his false daughter because he believes Sabrina Morningstar, which was sent to another Earth, was his daughter. So that's hitting it twice on the nail there for her. And then she kind of comes to the realization that, like, a man who never really knew her, she never really knew him, she couldn't really consider him as a father, and kind of, like, lost in that aspect as well, too. We do get a moment between Harvey and Nick where Harvey thanks Nick for helping save his dad. They seem to be on good terms now, which I guess is kind of supposed to help with the whole Nick and Sabrina thing, but anyways. And then we get Theo apologizing to Robin and asking him to stay, and Robin says yes, always. So that's something there. So another tidbit, though, is that Dorcas ends up giving her forgiveness to Agatha, which ends up giving her sanity back, I think. That's the impression I got. But ship status, main ones being Theo and Robin, they get back together. And then kind of Nick and Sabrina, like the fact, I guess more so in the very beginning of it with the opener, but they're definitely together as a couple. So there's that. Most shocking moment of the episode. This is what I want to talk about. We find out that Mambo Murray is not actually her real name, but she's Baron Samedi, a powerful Haitian Iowa, the almighty father of the Gedi now, the spirits of dead and rebirth. And she needs to return to the underworld now that the confusion between life and death has been restored. And she claims that she'll wait for Zelda in the afterlife, but if she ever needs her, Zelda can call on her, which Zelda kind of doesn't. Claims that she's never going to need to. But the fact that she is somebody that she's not, huge shocker there. And we'll talk about that later too. But when it comes to favorites, I will admit it was kind of hard to find a favorite in this episode. I definitely prefer 5 over 6. Episode 5 over 6. But if I had to pick favorites, I did like the kind of the resolution we got with Harvey and his dad. We got to learn a little bit more about his dad. And the moment where, like, the dad complimented Harvey on his playing. I thought that was really great. I kind of hate the fact that now the dad's going to have to think that all of it was a dream, and it could mean that nothing really changes in their dynamic. But I definitely wanted to see the dad still remember, because I wanted that bond between him and Harvey to kind of be there, you know? So that was a part of a favorite there. Another favorite I had, which I didn't think would be a favorite for me though, was between Prudence, Dorcas, and Agatha. It really started with Prudence's goodbye to Dorcas when she had to leave with Mambo Murray, and then Dorcas's own separate goodbye to Agatha. And then we had, right after Dorcas left, Agatha is brought back to being coherent again and saying that Dorcas had forgiven her and she doesn't understand why she needed to be forgiven. And then you just see this huge bout of emotion when she's trying to understand, like, why do I need to be forgiven? Like, what did I do? What did I do? And then Prudence is trying to keep her calm. Literally, this scene between the three of them and just the progression of how it focused on Prudence and Dorcas, and then Dorcas and Agatha, and then Agatha and Prudence, that progression for them, it had me in tears, which I was not expecting at all. Because, like, originally, I don't like Dorcas and Agatha, especially when they're antagonizing Sabrina. But, like, what really moved me was the fact that to the three of them, they were sisters. Like, they were everything to each other. And then Prudence had just lost Agatha, and then to have her lose Dorcas through Agatha, and then, like, she lost both of them, and then just when she got all three of them back, she lost another one only to gain the other one. And it's just like their bond is just, there's no denying it. And just to see it again for that brief moment when they had to say goodbye once again, it brought me to tears. It was just like, that ultimately did become my favorite part for the episode, for sure, hands down. And it's for characters I don't usually root for, which was why it was shocking for me. So there's that. Moving on to top peeved moments of the episode, the fact that you ended Zelda and Mambo Murray. Like, this was a ship I was willing to, like, see become something, flourish into something. It looks like it was going to something, but now it just seemed like a fling of benefit or something, like a friends with benefit kind of a thing, or just a fling of convenience. And just to have her leave and find out, like, this secret is what kind of had Zelda stepping back. And it's just like, you just ended them and I barely got any time with them. And I'm like, I'm mad by that. So that's one thing there. And another peeve that I have was I wasn't really impressed by this Eldritch. It feels like this should have been something that happened before the cosmic one in the previous episode. Because if each Eldritch is supposed to be more disastrous than the one before it, I'm kind of wishing that the return of, like, the return of the dead came as one of the earlier Eldritches, because in comparison to the previous 5 that we've had, this episode, the return, it seems pretty mediocre in comparison. Like, it is more like psychological play as opposed to, like, actual world domination. It seemed like it wasn't as terrifying as the previous 5, you know? And when I'm saying that now, the cosmic one, I'm kind of surprised that it was number 5 out of 8, because, like, the whole fate of the world colliding thing seems like it should have been maybe number 7 or number 8 before the actual void happens. But yeah, I just wasn't impressed by this particular Eldritch Terror. So that was a peeve there. It was kind of underwhelming. But moving on to random questions very quickly. First one, how did the dead prom queen getting her revenge on Satanic Panic do anything? Because after she put them on fire, they were just standing there charred afterwards. Like, they didn't do anything. It's just like, I thought it was like if she took revenge on them, then, like, maybe their souls would be, like, disintegrated, but instead Lucifer just took them back to hell. So it's like, what was the whole point of that? So that's something. Second question, why hasn't, again, kind of had that question previously for 305 or 405, but why hasn't Lucifer or Caliban tried to get Sabrina Spellman to claim the throne again, or to stand in placement of Sabrina Morningstar. I mean, that can't be not an issue anymore since it was such a huge thing in season 3. Or do they think that they're going to get Sabrina Morningstar back and they're just biding their time for that, so they don't want the issues that Spellman brings to them? So that's something. And the last question, will that special sword that Caliban got for Lilith, will that work against Father Blackwood, who can't be killed because he still holds the mark of Cain? I hope so. I want him dead and to be not an issue anymore. Maybe if he dies, whatever hold he has on Judas and Judith would break, because they seem catatonic still to me. But anyways, predictions very quickly. I really have no clue. I'm not really motivated after these 2 episodes to make predictions. The only thing I can really think of that they've seeded previously and yet hasn't come into fruition yet is that mention of the sex education classes that they had to petition in like the first episode. But otherwise, anything they seeded kind of played out so far. I'm still waiting for the fact that the 2 Sabrina mergers or that one of them's going to have to die. I'm still waiting for that. But otherwise, I don't really have any predictions for that. But otherwise, what did you guys think of episodes 5 and 6? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that. Also, what did you think about my interpretation of why I wanted the merge to happen between the 2 Sabrinas? I really wanted to know. And if there's anybody who knows of a fan fiction that has that prompt covered, please link it down below. I need to find it and I need to read it. Just to satisfy that avenue that we could go by. But yeah, so comment down below. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. Also, my WordPress link is down below as well. A little bit different for Sabrina fans, but if you're a fan of any other of the shows I talk about, both of them cover. WordPress has my Tumblr links organized and more detailed over there. Tumblr is reblogged promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that stuff for the shows I normally talk in my weekly recaps. So check that out there. I don't remember at this moment if I have reblogged Sabrina. I know it's popped up on my dashboard, but I can't remember if it was moved to saved drafts or if I actually reblogged it or not. Anyways, check that out and follow me there as well. Otherwise, I'm going to end it there, guys, because I got 2 more episodes left to watch, and I really want to get to those now to see how this ends, and then I'll do the final recording. So until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Happy New Year, because it's still January 1st for me as I'm recording this, and I hope you guys are safe. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye for now.